It has finally happened as we have some breaking news. The blockbuster trade revolving around Kevin Durant has finally broken through, and Phoenix Suns fans can now finally look at the return and actually debate, did they win this trade or did they lose this trade, as Durant will now be heading over to Texas and into the Houston Rockets. And we're going to be diving and exploring all of the latest revolving around this Kevin Durant news and the Phoenix Suns on this episode here on Suns Digest. I am Bruce Veliz, and you guys have been fantastic, showing your love and support on the channel, which has been super appreciated over these last couple of days. Now that finally we have some news revolving around the Kevin Durant situation, there won't be any more updates revolving around him, but there'll be plenty more updates revolving around this team, as more news will be coming as the offseason is just about to start. So if you're not subscribed already, make sure to hit that subscribe button, as roughly 65% of you guys who watch these videos are not subscribed. And if you want the daily uploads and daily content revolving around this Suns team, this is the place for you. Without further ado, let's dive into it and let's break down the news. Grab that snack and let's get into it. It finally happened, though. The Phoenix Suns finally made their move, and they decided to trade away Kevin Durant and trade him away to the Houston Rockets. We woke up today to this big blockbuster trade coming through, which the Rockets are receiving Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, the 10th overall pick in this year's draft, plus 5 additional second-round picks for Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant, you may say, should have gone for a little bit more value, and I definitely do agree that the Suns should have been able to have a little bit more leverage with some pieces involved in these deals, but we'll get to in a little bit. Proved to me that I think this is the best deal that the Suns could have gotten, and I'm glad that they took this offer that was presented to them on the table. This deal places Durant on the number 2 seeded Houston Rockets and elevates this team's positioning for title contention in the Western Conference. The Suns then land a 23-year-old scorer for a high-powered backcourt with Devin Booker, a tough 3-and-D player, and now have 3 firsts and 8 second-round picks to now use in trades. This blockbuster trade happened on the final day of the NBA season, in which the Suns engaged in deep conversations with 2 of Durant's finalists, Houston and Miami, over the last 24 hours, and reached an agreement on a deal this Sunday morning. Now, from Shams Charani's article, once again, we can see that they did agree to do this deal for Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, the number 10 overall pick in the draft, and 5 second-round picks. We do know that with this deal coming through, that the trade can be formally completed when the league new year begins on July 6th. Therefore, on draft night, this trade will go through by July 6th. It cannot go through today, which means that on draft night with pick 10, we will see the Houston Rockets come up and they will say, the Houston Rockets select blah, 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 blah. But he's not going to be going to Houston. He's going to be going to Phoenix. And I think this is a pretty solid return for the Phoenix Suns, and we'll get into why just in a little bit. But as we all know, with this team, the Suns got some second-round picks, and I think this was some clear part that wasn't really identified. John Gambadoro tweeted out, those second-round picks are the Houston Rockets pick in 2032, Boston's 2030 second-round pick, 2 second-rounders in 2026, and this year's 59th overall pick. Now puts the Suns with 4 selections in this year's NBA draft: the 10th pick, the 29th pick, the 59th pick, and also, I believe, somewhere in the 40s, I believe 46 or 48, which is their other second-round pick. So with that being said, the Suns now could potentially use 29 and some of those seconds to even move up in the first round, or could draft some key role players in this draft to really fill out this roster at the bottom and kind of fill in those plug-and-play needs. We all know that this Suns team, right, has some salary cap issues and got out of some salary cap issues with turning a guy away in Kevin Durant. And now if they can use some of these contracts to bring in younger players or guys that can kind of fit that mold now coming into the draft, it aids them, because then those players succeed on a rookie scale contract, they're going to look absolutely fantastic on this team, and the Suns will be paying them basically nothing, so the Suns can still build their squad out with still having these talented rookie scale contract guys. The Suns haven't really been able to hit on those draft picks, besides really Devin Booker, and now this last couple of seasons with guys like Ryan Dunn and Oso Ighodaro, so we haven't really been able to see that movement or growth really happen within the Suns, but I do expect to see something like that happen over these next couple of seasons, depending on what they want to do with those draft picks. But obviously, the main stuff that comes in in big return here is what did the Suns realistically get back in this deal, right? If we want to dive in and look, they obviously got Jalen Green. They obviously got Dillon Brooks. They got the 10th overall pick. Like I said, that 10th overall pick is going to be used, in my opinion, to probably draft a center or someone that is going to be a high impact piece in that position, because the Suns still want a center. They tried to get a center out there in the trade market, were unable to do so. It seemingly seems like in that Kevin Durant deal, there was no team that had a center that was available. The Heat were still reluctant to include a guy like Kelly Ware in some of those deals, and was really even reluctant to include guys like Jaime Jaquez or Nikola Jovic or even the 20th overall picks. And that's where it came to with the Heat, where they weren't offering stuff. Now, obviously, the Rockets got to keep guys like Jabari Smith, Tari Eason, Cam Whitmore, Reed Shepherd, young guys that the Suns were trying to target from their team as well. But the Suns still got some quality pieces. They get Dillon Brooks, who in my opinion, I think is a very solid defender, going to fit in keenly once again into this squad alongside Devin Booker. And they did get Jalen Green. Now, I personally really like Jalen Green coming out of high school, coming into the NBA. He has been inefficient. He hasn't been the greatest scorer 100%. But I do believe that if he is able to go on a team that he is able to showcase his true skill set, he can really blossom as that slasher scorer, and I think can be a consistent guy. Now, is that on the Phoenix Suns? I don't necessarily know. He is alongside Devin Booker, and John Gambadoro did come out and have some news coming out saying that the Suns are planning on keeping a guy in Jalen Green to play alongside Devin Booker. So what does that ultimately mean? We'll have to wait and see. Does it mean that Jalen Green doesn't really have much of a value? The Suns are trying to play up for it to be able to use him in a trade down the line? Does it mean that the Suns have a guy in Jalen Green that they feel confident can grow alongside Devin Booker and can thrive? I know personally, and other people around the Suns media space and fan space, don't want Point Booker to be back again, but once again, we may see that for at least the first half of the year while they try to rework a guard duo of Jalen Green and Devin Booker. Who knows? Maybe the Suns feel like Jalen Green can be that next Devin Booker, and they want to have him to learn underneath Devin Booker and use those skill sets to translate to another team and can hopefully boost his stock in a trade. Once again, Dillon Brooks is another key piece I think that's going to be staying here long term. Once again, they could have tried to get a contract like Tabari or like Tari or Jabari to have that young defender kind of bring in here, but ultimately still getting a solid defender on a pretty good contract in Dillon Brooks is really good. The 10th overall pick is great. Ultimately, could they have gotten a better package? 100%. Do I think that for Kevin Durant on a 1-year deal, this was not what Suns fans should have gotten for his true value? I completely agree. Do I think that the Rockets are going to be a better team added with Durant and still having those other young pieces on their core? 100%. But the Suns, in my opinion, I do not think got fleeced, got robbed, or absolutely lost this trade. I do think they took the best offer that was out there, and since the Suns didn't have much leverage in a deal revolving around Kevin Durant, with the high fact that they tried to trade him last season and he wanted to go to one of his preferred destinations, it does seem like the Suns took the best offer out there on the table that these teams were really offering. It didn't seem like San Antonio was giving much. Minnesota might have been given way, or Toronto might have been given way too much. Kevin Durant didn't want to go there. And between Miami and Houston, between those two teams, it did seem like that this package that the Suns got of Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, the 10th pick overall, and 5 seconds is definitely not at the value of Kevin Durant, but it still is at least some value and can present the Suns to put themselves in a great position. Who knows what they're going to use with those second-round picks? They could use those along with some of their first to try to trade off a contract in Bradley Beal. They could use that to try to get rid of some other contracts and Grayson Allen and Royce O'Neal, or maybe even some other guys, and that is key for the Suns as well. We all also have to remember that by waiving Cody Martin and Vasilij Micic, this team drops below into the first apron, and those kind of deadlines are coming up in just about a week. So right after the draft, we will figure out what the Suns decide to do with that, and that could give them even more flexibility in trades throughout the offseason and or free agency in these next coming days and weeks, which will make it a lot easier for them to make moves and make strikes to get this roster better. Once again, Brian Gregory makes his first move as GM of the Phoenix Suns. Many fans are not a big fan of this trade, but personally, I don't think it's the worst. Obviously, I think the Suns could have gotten a little bit better, but I also don't think the Suns had the opportunity out there to get the best package because the leverage wasn't there. And if this was the best package that was presented to them, I think they did a good job in taking this deal. We'll have to keep an eye out on what happens with Jalen Green, how Dillon Brooks fits in, and what the Suns do with that 10th overall pick. And I want to wish Kevin Durant the best of luck over on in Houston. It's going to be exciting to see what him and that Rockets team that was just second in the Western Conference can realistically do with adding a player like Kevin Durant. So make sure to stay tuned, keep up to date on everything revolving around the Suns by hitting the subscribe button, and let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section, as now that the Kevin Durant trade has gone through, we'll have multiple news to come out breaking down contracts like Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, who could they get with the 10th overall pick, other trades that could happen, and much, much more. So if you want to stay interested and revolved around the Suns on everything, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day, and go Phoenix Suns. Peace out, everyone.